right, staying in North Carolina, raise up. Let's talk about some Tar Heels. What's the lowdown on their season?
North Carolina is always one of those teams that you keep hearing if they would ever actually put the effort into their football team that they put into their basketball team, they could be really good. They have a strong alumni base. They have support. People come to their games. But this year was another year that was just met with disappointment. They were 8-5 last year. Mack Brown was back for another season, and they went 6-7 this year. Mack Brown ended up getting fired before the bowl game. It just wasn't good. Like it was a back and forth season. They started out 3-0, and then they lost 4 games in a row, highlighted by the fact that they lost a game in which they gave up 70 points to James Madison.
Is that bad?
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
And you always hear about, North Carolina, they're going to be a sleeping giant. They're going to be a sleeping giant, and it just never happens.
Yeah. During that 4-game losing streak, 3 of those games were at home, and they lost them. And I think at that point, the team, the fan base, and even Mack Brown himself really lost confidence in what he was doing. There were reports after that 70-point game to James Madison that Mack Brown was in the locker room and talking to his players and like questioning whether he even had it as a coach anymore. And I think
is wild because he was one of 3 coaches that have actually won a national title on all of college football.
Right. After that 4-game losing streak, they did come back and they won 3 straight ACC games. So they kind of got things back on track a little bit at that point, but they just closed out with, overall with the 6-7 record. The one bright spot they did have was their running back, Omarion Hampton, was fantastic. The guy had 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns. Like he was absolutely a load.
That's a solid year.
Yeah. But their defense was bad, and their defense has been bad the last few years. And surprise, surprise, who was their defensive coordinator? None other than good old Jeff Collins, Mr. 404 the culture. Yeah, they were not good. 89th in the country, scoring defense, and just bad. They only had 1 win this season with a team that had a winning record, and that was in week 1 over Minnesota. What hurt them this year? They did lose their quarterback. Max Johnson had transferred in, after being at Texas A&M and LSU. He was expected to come in and have a good year, and he got hurt again. He broke his leg. I think it was a pretty gross injury when it happened. So he ended up being out for the year. He is coming back next year. That guy's been in college forever, Mark Richt's nephew. But bad year. They finished 6-7, and after finishing 6-6 in the regular season, Mack Brown was fired. And next year, Bill Belichick is the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels. And that still might be one of the weirdest sentences I think I've ever uttered in relation to college football.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be something to see. We'll see how that goes. Maybe this is what wakes up the sleeping giant.
Yeah, maybe. That being said, I gave them a grade of a C-. I think it was a pretty bad year for North Carolina. Expectations were certainly better than a 6-7 and firing a coach.
Yeah, I mean, really the best thing I can say about the Tar Heels 2024 season is that they hired Bill Belichick. I mean, seriously.
And that could be the best or the worst thing that ever happened to them.
You never know. It certainly is the most interesting. It got a lot of eyes on North Carolina, and I don't know. I mean, he is the greatest head coach in pro football history, so that's kind of good credentials there. But overall, just a terrible season. I gave him a C-. It was just bad. As far as their record goes, they were bowl eligible, even though they didn't have a winning season, so that earns them a C+ for that. The Nitro Show final grade for the North Carolina Tar Heels 2024 football season is a C minus.
And a good luck to Bill Belichick and his 22-year-old girlfriend.